Hello, everyone. Welcome to Hard Knock Hawks. I'm Anthony, along with Chris, Leon, not Leon. Leon's not here. Excuse me. I'm with Chris and just Marco today. Leon is busy today, so he won't be able to join us for today's edition of the show. But we do have a special episode today because we have a guest here. It's Glen Willis of ATL at 29. He hosts ATL at 29 with Kevin Chenard of Hawks.com and Tyler Jones, and he has his own Patreon. Would you like to introduce yourself more, Glenn? Oh, you gotta mute yourself. Or hold on. There we go.
Yeah, that was weird. Yeah. Anyway, ATL 29, like Ant said, and my Patreon. 80% of the content I put there is accessible by even people who don't, pay the $3 a month. Pay the $3 a month, you get some content a little earlier, but eventually everything goes to everyone. So a lot of analysis, film breakdown, and things like that. And sometimes just like I'll turn my Zoom on, talk for 3 or 4 minutes ahead of a game, give a preview. Last thing I posted was my thoughts on the possibility of the Hawks pursuing Brandon Ingram as a trade target. So if you like that sort of stuff, you can find the link in my Twitter and Blue Sky bios.
All right. Thank you so much, Glenn. Now we're going to talk a bit about what today's episode is going to be about. It is going to be about the state of the team and the Hawks trade deadline decisions. But before we do that, we're going to talk about the big blockbuster trade that happened literally last night that shocked the entire league. And yes, the trade is Jalen Hood-Schifino to the Utah Jazz that's just part of the trade. But the main part of the trade we're talking about is Luka Doncic has been traded to the Los Angeles Lakers for Anthony Davis as a part of a 3-team trade with the Utah Jazz.
Is that a big deal?
I think it's kind of a big deal. It was kind of a big deal. It was literally, I think when it first came out, I think everyone thought Shams was hacked because he broke the news. But you may be wondering why we're covering this. It's mainly because, one, this is one of the biggest trades in NBA history, obviously. And two, this could potentially affect the Hawks in future trade discussions all the way to the deadline, because any trades that they previously had before with like let's say the Lakers or maybe with the Jazz or any other team, it's all been blown up basically because of this. So I'm going to start with you, Glenn, and then we'll go to everyone else. What are your thoughts on this big trade?
I wonder if everybody else had the same reaction I did when I saw Shams tweet. I was like, "Oh man, Shams got hacked."
You
read it and you're like, "There's no way this is real." There was no reporting, no rumors, no anything. I mean, not even Mark Stein, who's like really connected to the Mavericks organization, had anything around this at all. But then, as you kind of see some of the reporting after the fact, you see, Dallas having concern about his conditioning. That's something that, maybe not everyone kind of cares about. Maybe not all people that watch the NBA kind of cares about. But like last year in the finals, I kept criticizing Dallas for not doing things like pre-switching on defense. But I mean, you have to have 5 guys on the floor that are in really good shape, that can move, that are mobile, that'll work hard and move on the defensive end. And Luka, like each of those 4 series they played through, just looked more tired. Now he has a massive offensive workload, we know that, but I've always been curious, like how committed is he to taking care of his body and things like that. And that seems to be the trigger for Dallas deciding to do this. Interesting to me that Dallas didn't take time to like field more offers. I mean, they could have gotten 1 million draft picks, from someone for him. Presumably, they could have gotten young play. I mean, it's just the return is just kind of crazy. Like I appreciate how awesome a defender and how uniquely skilled Anthony Davis is for his position, but the return is just shocking to me. And I can't even imagine what Mavericks fans what kind of reaction Mavericks fans had when they saw that. It's just so unexpected.
You could go ahead, Marco. What's your thoughts on this trade?
I thought Shams was hacked as well. I'm not gonna lie.
Everyone's saying the same thing, like
because you can't. That's not a. It was no rumors, no buzz, no build up, anything to it. It literally just happened at 2 a.m. in the morning. That's like legit insane. Well, it was 2 a.m. for us. It was probably like 10 o'clock for them, but that's still insane. So, I personally don't see why they traded Luka. If it was conditioning reasons, whatever, I guess. But like Glenn said, you could have filled a lot more offers because, again, he's only 25. He's already a superstar. He single-handedly carried them to the finals. I'm like, I don't know what else more you could ask from him. Wait, this is like Pelicans and Zion. You know, you want them to be conditioned. I know ESPN said Luka had got to 270 at one point. It's give or take with that, I guess. You want him to be in shape, but I feel like it was bad for the Mavs. They kind of closed their window because I know their GM said he's thinking of his term of future is 3-4 years, but I'm like, Kyrie's expiring this offseason. What's stopping him from staying? Like, he came to Dallas because of Luka. So what's really keeping him there now? Does he want to play with AD? Does he want to, be the number one option again? Because, again, Luka was making it easier for him. So it's a lot. Lakers, they got their next guy after LeBron leaves because you don't make this type of move unless you know LeBron is leaving in the next year or two. So you have your next guy after that to keep you relevant because we know the Lakers don't like to rebuild for real. So weird trade all around. I think it affects some potential deals coming up, and that's really all I have to say on it. Go ahead, Chris.
This one was, well, for me, I didn't think it was hacked. I woke up and I knew it was real because I sent my last DM to I think someone around like 11:47, and I went to sleep. And then I woke up, and almost immediately after I sent my last thing, someone's posting the Shams tweet that Luka got traded. And I mean, obviously it's crazy. You never expect someone to trade a 25-year-old superstar. That doesn't happen in the NBA. But yeah, like they've mentioned already, Luka has major concerns when it comes to conditioning. Basketball is not a sport where you can be half in physically. I think we've already seen that affect Zion's career. Shaq was traded because long term, the Lakers knew that they needed to go with the guy that's going to be in shape and available. Coincidentally, the Mavs got more for Luka than the Lakers got for Shaq. They got Lamar Odom. So Anthony Davis comes in and he gives the Mavs a win now player. They have a roster that realistically can compete in the West, and if their bigs get healthy, you've got AD finally in a situation where he's got some centers next to him, and that's going to be an interesting front line. Last time AD played with a center, I think the Lakers won the championship. So you got Kyrie and AD. I think that's a solid win now formula for the Mavs. And I think that's an organization that's literally just thinking about the now. The Lakers, they get their superstar. I don't know what Luka's back half of his 20s and 30s look like. I think it's going to be difficult for him. He has to make a personal choice to change his lifestyle and really take his body seriously. It's something we saw Joker do, and he almost immediately won a ring right after. This is a sport where you have more possessions than ever. The pace is up, and Luka plays a guard position. And I think that really puts stress on your team roster building wise when one of your guards can't defend like a guard. He can't take on guard assignments, and he can't be like a chaser. I think Luka really hampers what you can do. A Luka LeBron, right? One of them is going to be grifting rebounds, probably both. I don't know who. Their center is going to be dead by halftime. He's going to be doing all the work. They're going to need Dyson Daniels and Rudy Gobert to really defend if they're putting Luka LeBron together. So we'll see how that works out. I think the Mavs might have came out on top long term. Luka really has to change his habits. Yeah.
Well, I think for me, like the first thing I want to say is that one, we won the Luka trade that everyone always mentions. That's the most important thing. The second thing is that like everyone else mentioned, like the Mavs have a really interesting team now with just a lot of size. I wonder if one of the main reasons why they even did this trade is that they were just thinking about how to beat teams like OKC and Houston, where they mainly had like issues with like these like bigger teams in general. I mean, to be fair though, like
In Denver too.
in Denver, exactly. Like if they could do that, then maybe they could have like a technically easier way to get to the finals in the end without even having Luka Doncic, because Kyrie is still a really good guard. And like you said, Chris, like I mean not Chris, I mean Glenn, AD is a really, really good defender right now. And he's gonna be playing the four, which he has said constantly over and over again. He thinks it's his best position. And he's gonna be playing with Gafford, who's a great center. So I'm just wondering if they think this is just gonna be like an easier way to beat like some of the best teams in the West. My question for the Lakers is how are they gonna try and build a competitive team right now and in the future, because they don't really have that many picks. And like LeBron, I don't know if he's gonna necessarily like playing with Luka, because he's a very ball dominant player, and like the conditioning and stuff with Luka it's gonna be interesting to see what's gonna happen. I mean, we don't even know if Luka may even want to play with the Lakers. I don't know yet. It's gonna be interesting to see what's gonna happen in the next few months. I mean, Luka could just be like, you know what? This is the moment where everything's just gonna change, and he could just turn into be a completely different person. But I am just completely shocked that this even happened. And I just think this could just be a credible indictment on what Luka is right now, honestly.
The other thing for me is, like, I think about what is JJ Redick thinking, right? Because it's not like the Lakers have all of these awesome defenders. Like AD was their highest level defender, for sure. But still, JJ's been able to get them to play pretty good defense, despite not having the greatest personnel. Now you put Luka in there, and JJ like really harps on attention to detail. No surprise, from the way he plays his game. If you followed his podcast, his play-by-play work when he was doing that with ESPN, et cetera. And it's just going to be interesting to me to see how JJ Redick is able to kind of get Luka to do the things that they ask everyone to do on the defensive end, because that's something Luka has never demonstrated in his career to that degree. So to me, that's one of the most interesting aspects of this, is how does the coaching staff get him to do the things they ask everyone else to do on defense?
Well, I mean, the question is, will he even try to do it? Because I mean, like you mentioned, he didn't really do that stuff. And I feel like there could be a situation where there's gonna be a bunch of tension because of that.
Well, he and LeBron have like the exact same role on a team almost.
Yeah.
And it's so interesting to see what JJ is going to have to come up with. I don't know that they have a real center that you can like even lean on. So yeah, that team is, you got Austin Reeves, Luka at the top. Yeah, there's gonna be a lot of drives. There's some compilations of Luka getting blown by last year in the playoffs. There's gonna be a lot of those continue.
You just gotta hope from the Lakers' perspective that LeBron can get Luka bought in on a real diet plan. That is your best bet if you ever want that guy to be like get in shape or whatever. Also, Lakers might want to. The funny thing about this and all this whole situation, that Austin Reeves is still on the team. They didn't have to give up Austin Reeves. They didn't have to give up Dalton Connect. They didn't have to give up
AD.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, how did Austin? So I think Austin Reeves has to be touchable now to help a plan, because you don't have any more movable. You have one more movable first. You have some value. You have some contracts that can move, but it's like teams are going to want Austin. If I'm an NBA GM and you give me a choice between if you give me a choice between Rui Hachimura and Austin Reeves, I'm most likely going to choose Austin Reeves.
Yep.
So it just, it's the idea of it is nice, but can it actually execute on court?
It's gonna be interesting to see what they can pull off, and I don't even know if that's something you can't. They have like 4 days to really try to rebuild a defense. And their defense was AD before, and he does a lot. And I think they're about to find out. I mean, AD was having one of his best seasons, most dominant rebounding. So yeah, there's a huge hole to fill. We've seen what happens to the Hawks when they lose Jalen Johnson. You removed Anthony Davis from a team that, oh boy,
Yeah, now
they
you're
needed
relying on
Anthony Davis.
now you're relying on Dodo and I think Vanderbilt just came back too.
Yeah,
So now you're
Vanderbilt
relying
did
on
come back.
Oof, they're gonna be like that
one
Popeyes
offensively
employee in
inept
the meme,
player
bro.
and Dodo and Cam Reddish. Cam Reddish is a good defender this year, but still offensively inept. So
Absent them adding a center, like you're thinking, is Rui going to play center? Is LeBron going to play some minutes?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Are they just going to go small in that way? It's going to be
I'm about to
interesting.
call Dwight Howard back up.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, you said call Dwight Howard back. Oh,
Dwight Howard's at home.
Dwight is probably about to fire off a tweet saying anybody need a center.
Yeah. But let's go ahead and just move on from this, because now I do want to ask you, Glenn, about your thoughts on the Hawks so far this season, because right now they are 22-27. We have had like a bunch of injuries basically. They're the 19th, not the 19th, excuse me, the 21st ranked offense according to Clean the Glass, and the 15th ranked defense. And they're currently on like their longest losing streak since 2019, which despite having a bunch of really close games during that stretch. So what's your general thoughts on the Hawks as of right now?
Yeah, I mean, so I think the most important thing that has happened this year is how much they move the needle on defense, right? That's been something that has just not been where it needs to be for a while now, since the run to the Eastern Conference Finals, really. And to build up a sustainable kind of defensive system and level of play, I think is an important factor there. But as you know, as we see, when they're not getting as much offense as they need from all the supporting players, whether that's all the issues Bogey's had making shots, they do well when Hunter's playing well, but Hunter's like any player at his level is going to have some good stretches and some stretches where he's struggling to make shots and things like that. And so for me, you look at them and you think when they're healthy, they're a top 6 team in the Eastern Conference. That's what the results tell us. They beat a lot of teams, currently kind of 1 through 6 in the league. And I know Hawks fans get frustrated. They've lost some games to teams at the bottom of the league, or the conference and things like that. But to me, they're still kind of building this thing up. It's going to take some time, but they're really one more significant offensive player away from, I think, having what they need on both ends of the court to start to really push up in the Eastern Conference. Now, the Jalen injury, as we know, as you guys have talked about, everybody's talked about, changes everything. And here we are just a few days from the trade deadline, and you're kind of thinking about how that factor will show up in what they decided to do at deadline. I mean, we know Capella and Bogdanovich aren't playing right now, and you have to think that's maybe tied to trade discussions that they're having there. Can they turn those guys into either younger guys or guys that fit more long-term what they're trying to build up? But I still think this organization is heading in a good direction. I think they're building something real. I think they're building something that will be more sustainable than what they've had before. But it's going to take some time. I know Hawks fans might feel impatient about that because of how long they've been kind of in the middle of the pack and they've been in the play-in kind of range for a while. But to me, it takes 1, 2, 3 years to kind of build up to a level of a meaningful culture, buy-in, functional roster, balanced roster. It just takes time to build that up. But I think they are making progress on that, even if the Jalen injury is a big setback for this year.
I will also like to ask you this as well. So one of the main, I think, themes for this year has been just like this contrasting thing, I guess, about development versus winning. The Hawks have been, I guess, trying to like straggle between those two things. And especially with this Jalen injury, I think they're trying to like focus more on development. But at the same time, with this losing streak, like you have to try and win some more games so the morale won't be, so low as of right now, and to have this continued buy-in and to build up the system more and more. So what do you think about like the Hawks trying to straggle between development and winning right now at this point?
Yeah, I mean, I think it is something that all organizations have to do unless you're just outright tanking. And as we know from the standpoint of what draft assets the Hawks this year, it doesn't make sense for them to pursue losses at all. And so it's weird because I know fans get frustrated with a long losing streak, but if you watch the Hawks play and you're paying attention, you would expect to see more frustration than you see right now. They just keep playing hard, and they keep they fought really, really hard against the Pacers yesterday and had that game really in range at the end of the game. And so what I feel like I see when I watch them is a group that's bought into the big picture, and is not going to let this losing streak really distract them from the fact that they're trying to build something that's going to take some time. When they're down, they keep playing hard, and keep working. We know they don't have enough shot making on the roster right now. They don't have enough rim pressure, with Jalen out on the roster right now, not having Bogey shooting at the level he has, before he's, kind of stepped away for personal reasons, what have you, and things like that hurt them. But I just am constantly impressed with their willingness just to keep, put their head down, focus on the task, keep working. And to me, that gives you some perspective into the culture that they're implementing there. Like, just keep working, and I think that's going to serve them well over a longer period of time.
I want to ask you about this too, Chris, because we argue about this all the time, like our group chats and stuff. And one of the main things you always say, and honestly, I hate this so much as a fan, is this season doesn't matter. But I mean, what's your thoughts about how the Hawks are just handling this season as well?
Well, I mean, it's about priorities, right? And your long-term plan versus short-term goals. And I think as an organization, right, going into this year, they were planning to develop, and then kind of see what happened. I think Quinn has an obligation as a coach, right, night to night, to try to win every game. But then he has another hat that he puts on with Landry to go plan this thing out for the next few years. And that long-term plan kind of supersedes whatever you're trying to do night to night. So Zach's not going to be available for 36 minutes every game because they have a long-term plan for his development physically. They don't want to stress him and wear him down. And I know it sucks, right? You want to see them go balls to the wall every game, but this team isn't fighting for home court advantage in the 1 seed. So you really have to pick your battles, and that's what I mean by that. And if you're trying to win the war and really build up this team, get to a place where you want to be, you have to be smart. And playing Zach as much as they're playing him he's going to develop from this. I don't think he's being underutilized. And I don't think he's being held back. Right now, without Jalen, maybe you want to see them play him a bit more, and that's something you would try to take advantage of in terms of getting Zach the ball, getting Moji on the court, and prioritizing development that way. But also what I mean by this season doesn't matter is you don't want to go using all your bullets in trades and draft capital to try to save a ship that's sinking, because this isn't the ship that we're really trying to ride to the destination, right? We're worried about the Trey's age 28 season. Jalen will be 24. Zach's going to be 21. Dyson's going to be 24. You really want to make sure you have the assets to supercharge those rosters. So you don't want to go spending all your money right now because we're saving up for a house down the line, right? It's just about having your priorities set and thinking long term rather than short term. And I know it sucks, and it's not something fans want to hear because you don't get paid to be patient, right? But there's guys that make a lot of money to plan this stuff out, and I think you did hear it's something Nico actually touched on the Mavs GM when he's talking. They're like, how does this deal work for the long term and the short term? He's like, well, for me, the long term is 3, 4, 5 years because he might not be here 8 years down the line. And that's something people have to realize, like timelines are different for each organization. And the Hawks timeline doesn't say like slam the gas this season. Zach is 19 years old. He's a major part of this rotation. And realistically, it's asking a lot to try to put him into a big time playoff series and to start leveraging assets, expecting him and now an injured Jalen Wright to carry you to the promised land. So it's just about trusting the process and building for tomorrow.
Yeah. I think you made some really good points because I guess to me, like as a fan, and I don't know if you agree with me with this, Marco, or not, but like it's just I just hate losing as a fan, right? I hate it. I'm really happy about seeing the system build up because when you look at what happened from last year into this year before, it's literally just a complete 180, right? Like last year, they were just really offensive heavy, and their defense was just terrible. But now it's just the complete opposite. And now I'm just wondering, and I mentioned this before, especially now that we're just gonna maybe trade off our veterans soon or not, I don't know yet. We can be able to just build this more sustainable team now in the future. But sometimes, like as a fan, like I just don't want to wait for that. But what do you think, Marco?
Yeah, losing sucks, man. Nobody wants to lose, especially when you've seen this current team fully healthy. We're like 15-6 when fully healthy. Our record is good when you at least have Jalen. Our record is like actually amazing when you have Jalen. But yeah, you've seen what this the squad can do. You know, injuries suck. We've gotten the injury bug for the last 2-3 seasons to where it has actually affected us. Like last year, Trey ended up being out for like 4 months. On current years on Yeka's torn his shoulder and stuff, and like I said, injuries and losing, it does suck. But sometimes, like I've been preaching lately, man, you got to take 2 steps back to go forward. And right now, only thing you can do is just take the positives out of the situation. Like Chris said, you want to focus on development. Like Zach is going to be an important piece for this rotation, starting or not, whatever role Zach needs to be in for the future. You just still need to develop him as a player. With Dyson, a lot of people haven't really been talking about it, but Dyson's offensive leap lately has actually been insane. Like he's actually looking for his shot. He's not scared to take threes anymore. Like he's not really hesitating to take the three anymore. He's getting to his spots in the hole. He's going to get to that floater. So you got to take the positives. You got to take the positives out of the losing. Now with Jalen injuries, might since he's out for the rest of the year, might not change the plan, but you might have to do something because again, you can't lose. You can't keep losing actually because we don't own our pick. You don't want the Spurs to, get a high pick with your pick because now that's like a shot to the chest. It feels like. So you might get another guy that can just help on offense. Get Dre in some more situations where he can be more useful on offense because now he is our second best player as of right now. So you got to get him more involved. That's really, like I said, you got to take the positives from it. This is our longest losing streak since 2019, and that was a rebuild year. We were purposely losing that year, so yeah, it sucks. But like I said, take the positives with it. Keep your head up. That's all I got for that one.
What I'll say is, the Hawks were trying to find a new formula, right? And they were really offense heavy in the beginning, and they basically trading DJ. They wanted to reset the culture. And they did maybe go a little overly defensive, but it's something Glen said before, right? The Hawks used to defend about as much as they needed to win night to night. But I think in building this roster, they're like, okay, how much defense do we need to win night to night? So they wanted to put that group together. And that's what last offseason was really dedicated to. Trades and transactions aren't easy. So building that roster up, it's just going to take a little time to finish off the build. I think the good thing right now is you have the owner kind of seemingly being patient with the guys putting it together and letting them have the time it takes to really build that out, because this is a guaranteed contract sport. And if you want to talk about the business of basketball, it's just not easy like in the NFL where you can cut guys and restructure guys and create fake money and the contracts are all fugazi. Like it really takes some wheeling and dealing. So that's why it does take 1, 2, 3 years to get all the pieces you need lined up, and then get Quinn's getting the guys that fit what he needs. And I think when you see Dyson and Zach come in and have the transformative impact, I think defensively they've had on this group, I think that should give everyone hope that, like, man, another summer, this thing could really get rolling. So I just preach patience, and I understand why it's hard. Like, I get it, but brighter days.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I continue to look at this deadline as can they add an offensive piece at the right price to help this year. Trey's workload is still more than I think what you'd ideally want it to be, and that's only exacerbated by Jalen's absence, right? But I think one thing, if you look across this season, as excited as we all are understanding about Jalen, I continue to look at him as a guy who doesn't quite today have what you'd want in a second, a guy who's second your offensive pecking order. He's not quite the shooter that a person has to be to typically be in that role. And his self-creation right now isn't what you'd normally expect for it to be. Now, he's young. He's really only in his second year in a prominent role. And so, 1 or 2 years down the line, can he continue to develop as a shooter? Can he develop more self-creation? But it's hard to know if he's going to get there. And there's nothing wrong with him being sort of the, 2B or number 3 or whatever, however you want to articulate it, when the Hawks have really built their next good team. Good teams have guys of his caliber more at the third level kind of guy, and another creator, ball handler, initiator would set him up to be optimized offensively by letting him run in transition, eat on the offensive glass, cut, work in short roll. A lot of those are the things that he tends to kind of be able to do most impressively right now, where his like individual self creation is not where it would normally be for a guy that you want to plan into your second guy on offense. So, like, can you get Brandon Ingram, as the rumors have kind of suggested the Hawks might have interest? Can you get him for veterans that aren't in the plans to be on your roster 1 to 2 years from now? Right, that might be something that makes a difference for this season, and gives you something to put alongside Trey. That helps Trey not have to, have so much workload, and we've seen the wear and tear on his body that's resulted from that. So as we kind of approach the deadline, and if you look around the league, like, is there another offensive player of that caliber that seems to be available? Like, that's the only one I see right now. We'll have to see if any new reporting surfaces or anything. But I think if they could get Brandon Ingram for a reasonable price that doesn't impact their kind of future asset position, it might make sense to do that.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%, Glenn, because having someone like Ingram just to be just another forward that can just handle more of the offensive load for this team would just be huge. And of course, he's a higher level shot maker than Trey. Like, we need these guys, especially since for this year the offense has just been not as what we expected. My main thing for like this trade deadline, I said this before in other episodes, is just I just think we just need a backup point guard. Like Gabe Vincent, I don't know if he's gonna be on the Lakers or not after the 6. I'm wondering if they're gonna trade him soon. That's gonna be an interesting thing to see. Javon Carter's a guy that I'm wondering about as well. Like guys like those that could just be another ball handler that we need, especially since we're not really playing Keen Wallace or as much lately. So I think players like those could really just help this team.
To Glenn's point, I would say, like, sorry, I didn't.
Go.
But I was going to say
Yeah.
that if you're trying to make a move now, I would say that it's got to be something future facing, right? Like especially if you're going to give up any draft assets. If you're gonna draft assets, it needs to be a player that you think factors into your long term future, or at least could. But if you're just trying to like add some fringe pieces, yeah, I fully support seeing what you can get for Capella, a Nance, Bogey, and these guys that don't necessarily factor into like the next like 3-4 years for this team. The people that you're not offering extensions to, you should definitely be trying to see what you can get for them at this deadline, and open up some minutes for some of these the guys that you're developing. I think one of the things that people might be missing in the Luka thing is they have to know if they're going to extend Luka, and if they don't think they can or want to extend Luka, then this is literally the time to trade him. He's 25 years old. There's still control on that deal, and you can get a superstar for him, like straight up, right? You don't want that deal to be like expiring and pending free agency, because it really hampers what you can get. So that stuff matters.
I will say to go back to because I do have a question for Glenn, then I'll go with my little tangent. We brought up Brandon Ingram, and I know we said it's a fair deal. So what do you personally feel like is a fair deal for Ingram standing where we're at right now? And even after what you just saw from the Luka trade?
Hey, it's a great question. So for me, how much I want to pay for Brandon Ingram depends upon how confident they are, or if they want to have him on the roster beyond the season, right? Or they just want to bring an expiring contract in and then deal with his market after the season, right? That's a big thing for me. I know on 18-29, Kevin and Tyler and I talked, and I said, I think Brandon Ingram, because of his health history, his injury history, is probably looking at like 3 years, 60. Maybe that's a little bit low. I don't know. And then you also have to kind of figure out, like, do we think as an organization that the Hawks think they can keep him on the court more consistently? That's a huge part of that. So for me, if the goal is to bring him in to help with this season, to help reduce Trey's workload for this season, and then be open-minded about what happens after this season, I would not want to attach any draft pick to that trade. None. Zero. That would be my mindset. And if the Pelicans say, no, I want the Sacramento pick, for example, we're not sending you Brandon Ingram, like, thank you, hang up, kind of move on. If the Hawks feel like Brandon Ingram can be a real piece going forward, maybe have some signal that Ingram is willing to sign a contract extension here, I'm a little bit more flexible on that Sacramento pick, but for me, it looks like Clint and Bogey. The Pelicans have to send some more salary back. I don't know who that would be, I think, in that scenario. But you guys know how much I appreciate Clint Capella.
Yeah.
But Clint Capella is not going to be the starting center on this roster when the Hawks are the next really, really good iteration of themselves, right? That's just a fact. And it's no coincidence that they've recently turned, their starting role over to Kongwu to let him start to hopefully kind of grow into that level of role and that kind of role. So for me, I'm fine sending out Bogey and Capella for Ingram. But I think, like I said, their plan for him beyond this season is a factor for me in whether or not they should attach a draft pick or not.
Yeah. If Brandon's market is really what you just said, because he has a decent injury history. It's been the same injury a couple times too. I think it's been very knee related. Then one was I think he had a foot problem. He has the extensive injury history. So I feel like his market, he's definitely not getting $45 million. I think we all can agree on that. He's not. No matter where he goes, he's not getting $45 million plus.
Well, Brooklyn, but they're just desperate and they have money.
Brooklyn does
no one else can really afford to do that and fill out their roster. That's the thing. What's happening right now with this money crunch, and guys like Brandon are not max players, and you have to really be willing to take a chunk out of your payroll and give it to them. 3 for $60 would be amazing. If Landry pulled that off, I would start building the statue myself.
Yeah.
But even if it's something between that and what they paid Jalen, I think that would be a great deal for the Hawks. And hopefully he comes down, and maybe the talks mean that he has come down and he's less delusional about what he's going to get.
I feel like the Hawks. Me personally, because I could sound like a homer saying, I feel like we are his best situation because right now we don't have a solidified, starting three. You want Zach to be that guy for the future. But
you need a gunner.
like,
Yeah, you need a shot maker.
Yeah.
and you have a guy that can self-create on the low block. He's a solid help side defender. He's long. That's you always need size around your 6-foot point guard. No matter what, you're going to need size around Trey. So he helps with the size department. He rebounds. I think he averages like 6 boards. We don't really with Jalen. Jalen's going to eat up most of the boards. So additional 6 boards from him, and additional like 8-10 boards from Onyeka. Solid rebounding group right there. He's only 27. Him and Trey are only a year apart. So he's not old. He's in his prime. So you still have a good player that is, still in his prime. Again, can shot make. We've always said this thing last year when we were circling around the DJ trades, and we did take Brandon Ingram. And a lot of people are like, if you want Brandon Ingram, why not just keep DJ? You want what DJ could have did at a way bigger size at 6'9" with a 7'1" wingspan. And who can make secondary? Pelicans used him a lot in playmaking situations, which kind of killed his usage somewhat.
Yeah,
but I feel like Brandon long term, if he's okay with committing long term, I feel like the sack first could go, because you don't know with the Fox rumors, you don't know how that sack first is leading now or going to pan out. So
yeah, I think if you can pull it off without giving up a pick, that'd be great. I
that'd be big.
Think that if you can get him in house, that probably helps your chance of getting a discount. Just get him comfortable. People don't like change that much, and he might not want to go to a whole other city again, and he might get comfortable. So it would be worth the risk, I think. That's only if Quinn and Landry really do think he's a fit, right? They might want a different player, but I think if you can get that for Bogey and Clint without giving up a pick, that's solid value for those two players, especially now that you're leaning into 00 and seeing if he can get you the 30 minutes a night and kind of cycle in some of the young guys behind him.
I do want to ask one more question before we end this off. This is my crazy trade scenario. I saw one of your co-hosts, Glen, offered this idea, and it really got me intrigued. What happened? Do you think in a world, what if we traded for Zion Williamson? I mean, it will probably have to be like Jalen for Zion or something like that. But I think I forgot who tweeted.
Hell no, sorry.
But it's a crazy idea. But I'm thinking about it, and let's say if Ricochet develops his shot, I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, maybe this could work. This is like the ultimate fan question, I know, but what do you think?
Yeah. I mean, so I didn't see that. No, I don't know where that came up, but I mean, for me, anytime a player of that caliber might be available, I think you have to kind of execute an internal process to see what you think might make sense, right? For me, Jalen's defense and rebounding is so critical to what the Hawks are running on defense right now. And that would be a huge loss for them. Zion is not the level defender that Jalen is, not even close. And now on offense, Zion is pretty dynamic and pretty skilled, but he's not a little bit like Jalen. He's not a high level shooter. Jalen's probably a better passer and ball handler than Zion a little bit.
Well,
yeah. But at the same time, I'm like, the thing that makes you kind of want to think about it is Trey plus Zion would just be pretty sick offensively.
Yeah.
But the other part is, it's like it's really only been this season that you've seen reporting that Zion is committing to his body, right, in a way that kind of opposite the trajectory that Luka Doncic has been on. And so I think you need some good intel about is his commitment that he's shown this year going to stick? Is he serious about it? And those sorts of things. But to me, like, the Hawks need to add higher end offensive talent when they can, and sometimes the best approach to take there is just to be opportunistic, right? We'll go back to the DJ trade with the Spurs. by all appearances, they just paid whatever San Antonio asked, right? I don't know that, but what they paid, so I mean, just compare it to what Dallas just got for Luka. Hawks pay way more, it's a draft cap, all the draft capital and all that sort of stuff, right? And so I think when top 40 players come available, and especially the Hawks needing to add on the in the upper end of their kind of offensive capability, I think you have to do some due diligence on what you might be willing to do to kind of make that happen. But it's hard for me. The Pelicans were going to trade Zion, like you would think that they would go chase draft capital, and although Jalen's certainly an intriguing young player, but for me, I think what Jalen does defensively is perfect for what the Hawks need at the power forward position. Is exactly what they need at the power forward position. And if you can groom, Mo Gay to be good enough offensively in time, that's a guy who gives you some depth there and those sorts of things. But like I said, the Hawks need more offensive firepower. And if something like that becomes available, I think you have to do some due diligence to see what might make sense in terms of a conversation about it.
All right. Thank you for that really good response. But before we close out, why don't you tell everyone about your Patreon and where we can find you again, Glenn?
Yeah, 8-29. I mean, it's going to be between now and Thursday. It's going to be sort of 24/7 watching the news and all that sort of stuff. Rapid reaction if something does happen, and those sorts of things. So 8-29. Chop it up with my guys Kevin and Tyler over there. And then if the Hawks do make a trade, I'll post probably a 5 to 10 minute video to my Patreon, just talking through my thoughts on that. For now, between now and Thursday, I'm going to focus mostly on trade deadline stuff. After the trade deadline, I'll get back to breaking down video in the way that I usually do once to twice a week. But I feel like everyone's mind is on the trade deadline right now. So most of our content between now and Thursday is be focused mostly around that.
All right. Thank you so much, Glenn. Remember, you can follow Glenn on Blue Sky at Willis Glen, and Twitter, and not Twitter, it's X, formerly Twitter. Excuse me, I'm gonna get fined for saying that.
Twitter forever.
Yeah, it is Twitter forever. But you can also follow him on Twitter at Willis Glen. Thank you so much for coming on here, Glenn, and thank you all for listening to the 19th edition of Hard Knock Hawks. We will see you all next time, whether it's an emergency podcast or whatever. Hope you all have a good one. Peace out.
Oh.